It keeps chasing us.
It seems our skies are full of mysteries. Unidentified flying objects, investigated by government agencies all over the world for decades.
The government itself, on occasion, has promoted belief in extraterrestrials.
For the first time, we've collated sightings and reports from all corners of the Earth.
Population, the society has the right to know this information.
Scientifically trained experts insist every sighting has a rational explanation.
It's very easy for us to get confused between what we think we're seeing and what we really saw.
But some continue to defy understanding.
I'd love to know what it was. To this day, I still do not know.
Does anyone know what these phenomena are? And do the governments of the world know more than they ever reveal to us? The answers may lie in the stories of Invasion Earth. A young man driving along a dark and lonely Australian road dies in a car crash. As police investigate the death, another driver comes forward with a shocking story. He claims the fatal car crash could have been caused by a UFO.
I do not know exactly what I saw, but all I know it was something out of this world.
It's a staggering claim that generates a media frenzy.
The story is a very unique story, and it's very compelling. And you could see in his eyes that that man had experienced something truly unknown.
Nearly 50 years later, some still believe this is one of the most puzzling and deadly UFO incidents in Australian history. Victoria, Australia. The 7th of April, 1966. On a clear night, 19-year-old Gary Taylor is on a long-distance journey from Melbourne to visit relatives in the north of the state. He's been on the road for more than 6 hours when he reaches a straight, empty stretch of road in central Victoria. UFO investigator Ben Hurl has studied Gary's story.
He's driving along the Wimmera Highway by himself, and he's approaching an area called Burke's Flat. As he's approached that area, his car has gotten into a skid, and he skidded for about 70 feet.
For some reason, Gary suddenly loses control of his vehicle. He veers off the road and slams into a tree.
And Gary was ejected from the car and landed on the side of the road. About half an hour later, the police arrive and the ambulance arrive, and basically Gary's body is taken to the St Arnaud Hospital, where he is pronounced dead.
At first light, police begin a road traffic accident investigation. The puzzle is, what caused Gary to lose control? The highway is dry, and there are no sharp bends to explain what happened. The report reveals that the 70-foot-long tyre marks enable police to calculate the car's speed as it swerves off the road.
When he actually hit the tree, he was travelling at 70 miles an hour. And 70 miles an hour in a Mark I Zephyr is just about got it wound out to the clock.
The question is, did something spook Gary on that empty road to make him brake so suddenly? But with no witnesses, the investigation draws a blank. Gary's death might have been consigned to the road traffic accident records, were it not for an extraordinary twist to the story. It comes from 39-year-old Victoria resident, Ron Sullivan.
When the newspaper article appeared, and it said that Gary Taylor had been killed at Burke's Flat, Ron felt a civic duty to come forward and go to the Maryborough Police and mention the fact that he'd had a really strange encounter in that same area.
8 p.m. on the 4th of April, 1966. It's just 3 days before Gary's accident, and Ron Sullivan is driving across Burke's Flat. In the fields ahead, and off to the side of the road, he spots a light.
Actually, I thought it was the backlight of a tractor. I didn't take much notice. As I got close to it, it flared out on the ground, and then the bottom come up, and it's like a tube, a vertical cone.
The cone-shaped light appears to sit on the ground.
The light was it was contained. It was very strange light. It never let off shadows or anything. It was like just a vertical ice cream cone. And I thought, holy moly, what in the hell's going on here?
Seconds later, the phenomenon performs an extraordinary maneuver.
Went as fast as the speed of light straight up in the sky. And I thought, what's going on?
Ron is shaken by the encounter, but thinks nothing more of it, until he learns about Gary's death on Burke's Flat.
He had a friend called Hugh Hunter, who worked for the Maryborough Advertiser. He was a reporter, and Hugh was very interested in the actual event. So they both agreed that they would go back to the site.
4 days after his UFO encounter, Ron and his friend Hugh find a circular imprint in the soil of the paddock. It's in the exact same spot he believes he saw the UFO, and barely 60 feet from the tree where Gary Taylor crashed. In search of a story, newspapers are quick to connect the mystery hole in the ground, Ron's UFO sighting, and the death of Gary Taylor. But what could possibly link a light in the sky and a crater on the ground? Professor Carolyn Crawford offers one possible rational explanation.
There certainly are aspects that are very familiar to the idea of meteors or even fireballs streaking through the sky. The idea of the colours, the bright lights, the motion, even potentially an impact site in the ground.
But at the Australian National University, Dr. Alice Gorman sees another possibility. She sees striking similarities between Ron's encounter and a strange Australian weather phenomenon.
I think this is a case of the classic Min-Min lights. The Min-Min lights are a light phenomenon which was originally identified by Aboriginal people, and they're lights which appear to come close and then move far away. They're close to the horizon, and they can be quite frightening when people aren't expecting them.
Chef, no. Chef, I'm really scared.
Dad, no, we have to keep driving.
Oh my God.
We're not stopping.
The Min-Min lights have been reported in Australia for centuries. They're said to be hovering orbs of light that appear at night. This rare footage shot in Queensland in 2013 shows one family's eerie encounter.
It went up in the sky.
It went up in the sky.
Scientists think this bizarre phenomenon is created by light from a source many miles away, being refracted through the atmosphere and appearing as a mirage in a new and unlikely place. Sometimes called a superior mirage, it's caused by an extreme temperature switch in the air. Professor Randy Cerveni is a meteorologist at Arizona State University.
One of the most plausible explanations that I can see for the Burke's Flat situation is that idea of a temperature inversion. Temperature inversions are where we have two different layers of the atmosphere with different temperatures, so that when you're driving across a desert, for example, and you see a mirage of water. That's usually due to a temperature inversion that has taken place.
Temperature inversions occur when a layer of cold, dense air becomes trapped at ground level beneath a layer of warmer air. Common in deserts, they also appear at sea or on vast stretches of wide, flat land. And they can refract normal light rays into spectacular hovering illusions.
As light goes down through two different layers of air that have different temperatures, it's going to be refracted in different ways. And in fact, in some cases, actually totally separate it from the horizon and make it kind of floating in sky, what we call a superior mirage.
In the daytime, mirages can be mesmerizing. But at night, the effect can be shocking.
Chef, I'm really scared.
Dad, no, we have to keep driving.
Oh my God.
We're not stopping.
Whether Gary Taylor was spooked by the Min Min lights or any other phenomenon that night remains a mystery. Ben Hurl suspects there may be more down-to-earth explanations for Gary's crash.
He could have easily been avoiding a kangaroo, a rabbit, a fox, or any other number of nighttime creatures. It's unknown how much nighttime driving experience he actually had. These are the factors that sort of, I think, are around the accident, and it's, any one of them is arguably possible.
Sadly, these are questions for which we may never find answers. But for Ron Sullivan, whatever he saw on Burke's Flat that night, and the memories of what happened to Gary, have haunted him ever since.
I do not know exactly what I saw, but lately, over the last few years, I often thought, what the heck was that?
In the late 1970s, a small town on the edge of the Brazilian Amazon experiences a series of shocking events. Dozens of locals are admitted to hospital, claiming to have been burned by strange beams of light shining down from UFOs.
As pessoas ficaram num estado emocional de total perplexidade, de confusão.
The Brazilian military are sent to investigate. And what unfolds is a UFO investigation on an unprecedented scale. The Air Force called the project Operation Saucer.
It is the largest military operation that we know in the world to investigate the UFO phenomenon.
Colares, Brazil, July 1977. It's a warm evening in this small fishing town on the fringes of the Amazon rainforest. Local resident Carmen Vale is getting ready to go to sleep. Now 82 years old, she vividly recalls the events of that night.
Eu estava dormindo. Dormindo não, eu estava meia acordada, meia dormindo em casa. Isso devia ser umas 11 horas da noite. Aí quando eu via aquela zoada, né, por cima, aquela claridade, quando eu vi, foi quando ele atracou no meu braço. Aí eu fiquei amortecida, né, sem poder me mexer.
Carmen claims to feel a searing pain on her arm.
Aí ele pega, se espanta e disse, o que foi? Eu disse, sei lá o que estava me agarrando aqui no meu braço. Ele disse, foi um chupa-chupa. Quando foi de manhã, eu não tenho vontade de me levantar da cama. Me levantei, já era umas 11 horas do dia, onde eu estava fraca.
Because of her weakness, Carmen is unable to work for a month following the incident. And the strangest thing of all, she's not alone. Throughout the summer of 1977, Dozens of glowing lights are seen darting around the skies over this stretch of coastline. And they are even observed at sea. Local fisherman Rodrigo Ariñar de Oliveira claims to have had his own strange encounter. That same year, he's fishing the Colares coastline with his 15-year-old brother. It's late at night when they spot a small object high up in the sky above.
Na hora que ele focou aquele laser em cima de nós, assim, na canoa apareceu tudo vermelho, assim, da cor da sua camisa, cor de vinho. Tudo estava vermelho, viu? Tudo vermelho. Tudo vermelho. Aí meu irmão se desesperou, queria se jogar na água. Queria... Não, calma, mano, calma. E já calma ele, calma ele. Ele focou mais ou menos aí uns segundos em cima de nós, não é aquilo muito forte. Né? Aí ele se acalmou, aí também aquilo foi rápido que ele focou. Mas muito ruim mesmo essa noite. Aí ele passou mal, o rapaz, depois.
Rodrigo's brother survives the encounter, but the story is far from over. Reports of similar incidents spread through Colares. Often, people report a UFO emitting a sharp, powerful light, followed by a biting sensation, which drains them of energy and leaves mysterious marks on the skin. It soon earns a gruesome nickname, chupa-chupa, meaning the sucker.
Medo e desespero, porque né, eles estavam atacando mesmo o pessoal aí mesmo, né? Estavam atacando tudo o pessoal mesmo aí, né? E atacavam mesmo que aqui era uma calamidade aqui em Colares aí. É.
Carlos Mendes is a journalist who at the time was working in Belém, the state capital, 40 miles south of Colares. That year, the terrified people of Colares reach out for help.
Moradores vieram de Colares, me procuraram no jornal e me contaram que estava aparecendo isso, que eu precisava ir para lá.
Mendes is shocked to find a community in chaos.
As pessoas ficaram num estado emocional de total perplexidade, de confusão.
Bonfires are lit, fireworks are released along the seafront, and locals create a cacophony of noise in an attempt to ward off the chupa-chupa. But the UFO sightings continue.
E quando eu perguntava o que estava acontecendo, eles diziam que estava aparecendo luzes no céu, que aquelas luzes elas focavam em cima deles, né? Eles ficavam atordoados e algumas luzes atingiam no pescoço, outras atingiam as mulheres no seio.
So what exactly are the people of Colares seeing? And is there anything to explain their violent physical reactions?
Nos anos
Dr. Robert Bartholomew is a sociologist who studied the Colares case. He believes the reason so many people were affected can be explained by a phenomenon known as mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria is the rapid spread of illness signs and symptoms for which there is no identifiable cause. Mass hysteria is actually when people become physically ill.
Bartholomew points out that the most significant element in such cases is word of mouth.
If I give someone a drink of water and suddenly someone comes in the room and says, oh, there's poison in it, they might actually vomit and get physically sick, but there's nothing wrong with them. So it's the rapid spread of illness like that among a group, and it's usually spread by a belief.
But what of the injuries? Is there any other rational explanation for the strange marks on the victims? Dr. Valaide Carvalho has first-hand experience of the injuries. In 1977, she sees more than 80 patients, all suffering burn marks, nausea, and weakness following a UFO sighting.
Comecei a ficar intrigada. Por que que as histórias eram sempre iguais? Por quê? Se eles eram atacados em lugares longe demais.
And one recurring injury fascinates Dr. Carvalho.
Normalmente apareciam 2 orifícios, ou forames, né? Paralelos, que poderiam ser no pescoço ou no tórax, direito ou esquerdo, acompanhado de queimaduras dermatológicas.
One theory suggests a more earthly cause of the scars. The Amazon basin has nearly 150 different species of bat, 3 of which are infamous vampire bats. Vampire bats are prolific feeders, and their natural source of blood comes from small mammals and birds. But in some rare cases, they've been known to tackle larger prey. Ecologist Leonardo Trevelin explains how this can happen.
In the interior of the Amazon forest, the populations live in houses that are not so protected, they sleep in hammocks, so this may make it easy for the bats.
But Trevelin finds little in the accounts of the Calaris attacks that indicates typical bat behavior.
Human encounter with blood-feeding bats. This is not frequent, doesn't happen a lot in big numbers, so that sounds kind of strange to me.
But the strange situation in Calaris is about to enter uncharted territory. The Brazilian military dispatch a team of Air Force officials to stake out this corner of the Amazon. What unfolds next is an investigation unparalleled in the South American UFO archives. Two American helicopter pilots are confronted with a strange glowing object in the sky.
And then when it came back in our sight the second time, that's when it shot the 3 fireballs out.
I think they really thought at the time that this was something shooting at.
Details of their shocking encounter are picked up by the local press.
When it came out in the news, they told me I was crazy because people are going to think I'm crazy, but I saw what I saw.
The media spotlight is quick to focus on the story because the 2 key witnesses to this extraordinary UFO sighting are experienced and respected police officers. Louisville, Kentucky. The 27th of February, 1993. A police helicopter is on routine night patrol over the city. On board are officers Kenny Downs and Kenny Graham. Graham is a seasoned pilot with 11 years' experience on the force.
We had been up for about an hour, and we were landing back at our heliport where we took the helicopter, and a call came out of a possible break-in at a location roughly 3 miles from where we were. So we started in the direction of the call, and when we got near, an officer in one of the cars canceled, said it was not a break-in. But at that point, Kenny saw a light. Brought the helicopter to a hover, probably about 500 feet from it, and we were looking straight at it.
And it came up, looked like it came out of a tree line and just came right up towards the helicopter, and it stopped.
It seemed to be sort of an egg-shaped glow, but as we looked at it further, the glow was inside this sort of transparent encasement.
We got the feeling that it was trying to figure out what we were at the same time we were trying to figure out what it was.
I didn't know what it was going to do or what it was capable of. I just wanted to keep clear of it, but keep it in sight.
And I said, I'm going to get on the radio and I'm going to call for some cars to come over here and you know, hopefully they'll see the same thing we are. And so I did.
Jefferson County police officer Joe Smolensky takes the call. Within moments, he too is tracking the same mysterious object. But up in the skies, the light doesn't stay visible for much longer.
And then all of a sudden, it just took off up and out, and it went very high, very fast. And we were flying along and then trying to see where it went, and then Kenny all of a sudden yells out, "Kenny, it's chasing us, it's chasing us."
That's when it started circling. And it kind of circled us a couple times. And then after it circled a couple times, it stopped again in front of the helicopter. And then when it came back in our sight the second time, that's when it shot the 3 fireballs out.
And it shot out 3 fireballs, just like you would see on Star Trek with their photon torpedoes. And as it did that, I banked left.
500 feet beneath Graham's helicopter, Officer Joe Smolensky has parked his patrol car in a quiet industrial neighborhood. He too reports witnessing the fireballs.
And then when I came back around to see where it was gone.
The Kentucky helicopter pilot's encounter with the UFO lasts no more than a few minutes, but both officers are shaken by the experience.
We both looked at each other and we both looked like we had just ran a marathon. And we were kind of excited. We went in, we thought about it. We sat down and talked to each other about it for a few minutes. And we thought, well, we better call our boss.
We were on the ground and we were just now at this point, what was it? What was it? And we tried to think of anything that it could have been.
But before they have a chance to launch an investigation, the story is picked up by the media.
I believe in this earth and people, and anything is possible. That's all I can say.
I'm not saying it wasn't man-made. I just no comment. I know it was traveling at speeds I've never seen before.
I personally did not want to talk to the press, but at the same time, we're police officers and we have to tell what we see. We can't hide anything from the public.
I took some ridicule from fellow officers and some people that were not police officers. When it came out in the news, they told me I was crazy because people are gonna think I'm crazy, but I saw what I saw, and I'm very proud of, being me and able to say, okay, this is what I saw, and standing by what I saw.
Glenn Rutherford is a journalist working in Louisville at the time of the incident.
I didn't know what to make of it at the time, because here were 2 officers of the law, experienced aviators.
Glenn believes the sighting is all the more significant because of the men's esteemed position within the community.
I know them through friends in the police department, and they were all very highly thought of. So they wouldn't make something like this up.
The 2 pilots are keen to know if their sighting could be confirmed by anyone else. Shortly after landing, they contact the air traffic control tower at the nearby airport.
We contacted Louisville International and asked the traffic controllers if they had spotted anything on their radar, and they said no, but they were wondering why we were flying in circles like we were flying.
So what was the mysterious glowing UFO that seemingly managed to evade airport radar? The media coverage generated by the pilot's encounter brings forward witnesses of a different kind. Shortly after the event, a local couple approached the press, claiming they were responsible for the floating object in the sky.
The couple had come forward to say, what was really shooting at you was, in fact, this hot air balloon that we made out of a laundry bag and cardboard and birthday cake candles.
Ready?
This video shows how a similar homemade balloon rises quickly when filled with hot air from a small flame.
This gentleman comes forward and says, here's what I did. I made this, I saw the helicopter, and I wondered, why are they flying around it?
Well, I think that was someone just trying to get his 15 minutes of fame. We were up there, we saw this object, there was no wood in it, we were close enough to see. A balloon would have floated. That traveled at least a mile and a half away, and it was going too fast. A balloon couldn't have done that.
David Higgins is a commercial helicopter pilot and instructor. He believes that the airflow produced by helicopter rotor blades is capable of forcing lightweight objects around the sky at high speeds.
In and around the helicopter, there is a lot of disturbed air. So if something like a Chinese lantern or a helium balloon, child's helium balloon, entered that area of disturbed air, they would move erratically.
Higgins also believes that the object's absence from radar is easily explained.
Air traffic control radar does have its limitations. So if an object is very small and very slow moving, it may not be detected on radar. So I wouldn't be surprised as a pilot if a balloon doesn't produce a radar return.
And what of the fireballs that were observed shooting out? Not just by the two pilots, but also by Officer Smolensky on the ground. Glenn Rutherford thinks there's a simple explanation.
One of them said, he's shooting at me. And I think it's because the falling parts of burning paper and whatnot coming off of the hot air balloon may well have looked like projectiles being fired at the helicopter. And it's easy to see how it can happen because when you're in the air, that added dimension is confusing for people.
But the two pilots are adamant that whatever fired at them that night remains unexplained.
There's no way that this could be a balloon that somebody was flying. No way possible. I don't see how it could have shot 3 fireballs out. The biggest thing that I have is I'd like to know what explanation there is, if there is one.
When the projectiles were fired, it was like I said, it was something like off of Star Trek. Only thing I can say is that, we saw it. I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of this one.
But for Glenn Rutherford, the evidence for a homemade balloon is overwhelming, and he considers the case closed.
Problem with the phenomena, with this whole study of UFO events, to me, is that so many of these people want so desperately for this to be real to them that they'll discount evidence that's obvious.
Colares, Brazil, 1977. Locals claim that the small fishing community is being terrorized by beams of light shooting down at them from UFOs. Dozens of residents are admitted to hospital, complaining of weakness and bearing strange, unexplained marks. In October 1977, the Brazilian Air Force sent in a team of investigators. But in a bizarre twist, that month, a doctor treating the patient's injuries claims to have an encounter of her own. On the 16th of October, Dr. Carvalho is returning home from work with a colleague who suddenly becomes weak and faints. At that moment, Dr. Carvalho claims to witness a cylindrical metal object barely 40 feet off the ground.
De tão baixinho que ela estava, a nave, que eu via a cor do metal. E até hoje eu não consigo detectar, mas é um metal extremamente brilhoso.
Unlike other sightings, there is no powerful beam of light, but Carvalho reports observing the UFO performing wide circular maneuvers overhead before disappearing into the distance. For the doctor, it is further proof that her patients are telling the truth. But when she reports her sighting, she claims Air Force investigators show little sympathy.
Eles pediram que eu não falasse mais, porque se eu confirmasse que as pessoas estavam sendo atacadas por objetos voadores não identificados, poderia ser presa ou poderia desaparecer.
But it soon becomes clear to residents that the Air Force are taking a keen interest in the reports. For months, they camp out in Colares to carry out surveillance of the skies. The question is, what's keeping them occupied for so long? UFO researcher A.J. Gevard has studied the Colares case. A case the Air Force investigators call Operation Saucer.
This case was investigated by a large structure of men from the Brazilian Air Force in an official duty. It means it is the largest military operation that we know in the world that was put together to investigate, to do something about the UFO phenomenon.
In January 1978, Operation Saucer is brought to an end. The Air Force leaves town. No results are released, and the locals' reports seem destined to be buried forever. Since the mid-1980s, AJ has been trying to uncover the truth behind the investigation.
And we put together a campaign that gathered 70,000 signatures asking the government to come clean about it, to release its files. They were all old files anyway.
Then, in 1997, a breakthrough. Yoronge Holanda Lima, the captain in charge of Operation Saucer, agrees to a filmed interview with AJ. He confirms what many locals had suspected all along. Members of the Air Force had also seen the lights.
Vamos dizer, depois de mês, as coisas eram em cima da equipe. Eles já estavam em cima da gente, eles sabiam o que a gente estava fazendo.
And he gave me very much detailed information of what went on in the previous years of the Operation Saucer, during all the 4 months of Operation Saucer, and after that. During that 4 months period of time, they had the opportunity to film over 16 hours of footage of these objects, sometimes coming from the water, sometimes come from the air, sometimes several of them all together in space, coming close. And they made over 500 pictures of this. They were all classified, of course.
Holanda Lima dies just 2 months after giving the interview, but it's a major turning point in the quest for information. The Brazilian government finally relents and releases the files. 300 pages of official documentation on Operation Saucer, including drawings, witness statements, and most revealing of all, detailed military observations.
The behavior of the phenomena, the maneuvers of the phenomena, the way they would come so close to the people, to the military, and attacking the people but not the military while the Operation Saucer lasted. All together, all put together, gave to those men and to their commander in Belém the solid idea that they were dealing with something not from this earth.
But the files come to no solid conclusions about what the sightings might have been. Professor Carolyn Crawford is an astronomer at the University of Cambridge. She believes mass sightings of streaking lights in the sky, as witnessed from Colares in 1977, can often be easily explained.
A meteor is a lump of space rock that's burning up in our atmosphere, and there are certainly things about this sighting that are reminiscent of a meteor shower. The idea of the beams of light matches quite well the streaks of light that are left after the passage of a meteor through the sky.
And according to Crawford, the untrained eye can play subtle tricks on the mind of the observer.
If you have an isolated bright light in the sky at night, especially if you don't know what it is, it's very difficult to judge distances because you don't know how big it should be, you don't know how bright it should be. You maybe assume just because it's bright it's much nearer than it actually is, or if it's faint that it's actually further away than it really is. And without that sort of comparison, it's very easy for the brain to be fooled into misestimating distances to objects.
Is it possible a combination of a meteor shower and collective hysteria led to the mass sightings in Colares? In the 1960s and 70s, Brazil was under the rule of a military dictatorship. Paranoia and fear gripped the nation, and many regions suffered poverty. Cognitive psychologist Dr. Susan Clancy believes the political climate is important in the Colares case.
So what we do know about mass hysteria is it is most likely to occur during times of socioeconomic decline or change. So if you've got a situation when a community is under extreme conditions of poverty or war, you're going to be more likely to see this type of thing happen. Psychologists think it's like some sort of unconscious manifestation of distress. Like because they feel so powerless, they can't address the real issues, it's coming out in this sort of type of event.
Clancy believes that hysteria can escalate even further when respected members of the community are affected.
The more people that claim they saw it, the more impetus that gives for other people to think they saw it too. And then all you need is somebody with authority, somebody who's a respectable member of society or a person that everybody trusts saying this is what happens, and then you sort of start seeing this mass panic.
The key to solving the riddle of the Colares UFOs could lie in the photographs and films of the objects taken by the military. But when the files are declassified in 2005, the films are conspicuous by their absence.
A Operação Prato ela teve em torno de 1.300 páginas. Só foram divulgados até hoje. Por que eles não entregaram as 1.000 páginas que restam? Por que eles não entregaram as mais de 30 horas de filmes? Por que eles não entregaram as mais de 600 fotografias?
The Colares UFO enigma may only be cracked if the tapes and the rest of the files are released. Until then, UFO researchers like A.J. Javard will continue digging for the truth.
The population, the society has the right to know this information, as well as us UFO researchers, because after all, we are society as well. And we are very interested in knowing what the government is still hiding about it. We don't want only the tip of the iceberg, we want the entire iceberg.